It's gone. I know, but seriously, good morning. I just have to wait till it starts so I can close it, otherwise it echoes. We're streaming. Enrico. Enrico. One is. Yeah. Allergies. This is all like. Yeah. I mean, I was holding out for something anyways.
First, I was later than I expected to be because many everybody.
Yeah. I think we're about ready to start.
We're definitely ready to start.
Sorry for the delay. We have the new building and there are on occasions there might be issues.
Really loud, please.
We deal
Sorry.
with. So,
Okay.
thank you very much for your patience. I just want to welcome everybody. And before we get started, I want to thank all the staff. This is a really nice spread. Thank you for the food.
Well, you know, when you show up in person, you want to come back next time we ask you to come in person.
It's really nice. So appreciate it. The burrito will last me until probably Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I also want to thank Yolanda and say congratulations on your retirement from city government.
Thank you.
We'll be back right, somewhere. I mean, I retired once and I'm back.
The other thing I wanted to mention is I just want to welcome Commissioner Erico Rivas, who's our District 5 County Commissioner, to the board. Commissioner Rivas is downstairs at budget hearing at the moment, but his assistant Augustine is here to represent. So want to get that on the record. Welcome you. She's the first in-person for the CEO. And then also welcome back Commissioner Quesada, who is on the commission.
Is here.
Yeah.
She didn't get to go on location.
Louder.
I'm going to go ahead and facilitate the meeting today. The county has budget hearings going on downstairs, and Enrico could likely get called away during the meeting. So I just want to echo, very excited to have Commissioner Quesada back and to have Commissioner Olivas on board with us, and then also Councilman Sanchez and Councilman Bassan. Happy to have you still here with us. We're very excited. We did lots of digging to figure out. We couldn't tell for sure if you guys had been reassigned and it had been updated, or we got to keep you with us. So we were very excited about that. The other thing we really want to do is we want to recognize Yolanda Montoya Cordova for her commitment to ADP. Back in 2007, I was what was the equivalent to the community school coordinator at Grant Middle School. And Yolanda was a part of the school-based health center work at the state level, at the Office of School and Adolescent Health. And community schools are very complex. And one of the reasons I know what I know about school-based health centers and the integrated student supports component of community schools is because I learned it all from Yolanda back then. Everywhere from building out a school-based health center and the ADA compliant rooms that had to be in our centers to how to the values and the pieces of Medicaid certification for a school-based health center was all because Yolanda was very committed to the advisory council of the Elevate initiative and really worked closely with us for years, trying to help us understand how all of that could fit into a school, the philosophy, the approach, the details. So we thank you for that. And we know that you will continue to be a champion for community schools through your work with the APS board, as well as all of your work that I'm sure you will continue to do, because I see you at Rio Grande regularly. So thank you. And congratulations on retiring from a paid job. Just clear on that.
Yeah.
You're now with Barbara.
It's
And Peggy.
Yeah, well, it's as my granddaughter said, she said, oh, I get what retirement is. She says it's you're working and you're getting 10 apples for doing nothing. So, I'm like, yeah, I'm still getting 10 apples. Yeah, that's it. But but it's not quite doing nothing. And I really do appreciate where community schools has gone, because we were there on the front lines with that first initiative when it came with to New Mexico, and I was really excited to be on the beginning stages of that. So it's been a great. You guys have done a fantastic job with it.
Thank you. Thank you for all your support in doing that. So we are going to also, and the board chair goes to Sasha Pellerin for the 2023. She will be chairing on behalf of the mayor. So next, so next month, Sasha will be in charge, and Enrico will be very excited to let her be in charge. And a thank you to Enrico Gradi from the representing the county manager's office for dealing with me for the last year. ABC moves quickly and has a lot of information. And for anyone who's ever chaired this board, it's like a fire hose generally, because we're always moving in 12 directions. And I'm talking to you the night before saying, here's what we're doing. Thank you. Any questions? And of course, as all outgoing board chairs get, also a 50 bouquet. It should entice you to want to chair the ABC.
Wow.
Or retire.
I know.
I just started using the stairs all the time.
You earned it already now.
I'm working on
You see something over diets.
it. Obviously. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your support both within the county system, but also broadly with ABC and all of the work that the board does. Enrico helps me navigate a lot with the folder and all of the different systems, and it's incredibly important and critical to my work. There's a lot of systems we deal with, and so having people within that really help us navigate it is so important, and we are so thankful for it. All right, so we are going to do a little update on where we have been in the last year or so with the strategic plan. Most of you were participants in the strategic plan process, but those that weren't and maybe joined the board after, we tried to give sort of an overview of it. It was comprehensive and complex, as all things community schools, but there is a critical part. Okay. All the buttons. One of the critical pieces as a part of the mission is how we do our work as ABC. And that is what the board decided were the big buckets of work to direct the ABC team. So remembering that ABC as a partnership is this board, but the county also provides the staff to have a team to do the work that the board kind of sets this strategic direction for. And the team is guided by these 4 buckets: community school development, resource development. We're yelling at everyone now. Sorry, I'm yelling over your head. Resource alignment and development, systems transformation, and facilitation of community self-determination. And so we wanted to let you know what's been going on around these areas of work since we took this new mission, new vision on. Right now, we have the area of community school development. We work really, really closely as one team with the APS Community School Development Specialist and the Title I resource team. These all sort of cross over, but I'm trying to put them in buckets that are the most dominant in there, but they all integrate because it's all connected. But professional development is provided through intensive cohort support and the ABC huddles. We have onboarding processes for schools that have been developed for new leaders, new coordinators, and then also one-on-one coaching that is connected directly to helping schools sort of go into the community school strategy, whether they're a brand new school with a brand new coordinator, or if they've had transitions and we're trying to help support the leader and the coordinator in really understanding what came before them in a school. Then we also have direct principal coaching and support. So on the left, what you'll see is sort of the hours. So around the cohort structure is provided about 75 hours of intensive support to those schools, those community school coordinators. The network of Huddle, the network of schools also come once a month to huddles. We've had 18 hours dedicated to that. In those huddles, people really learn broader work. We talk about things like root cause analysis and then practice the root cause analysis. We also use those spaces to engage voice and feedback from the coordinators so that we can inform work moving forward the next time around. That was about 20 hours. Thank you. We have one-on-one site support. That was about 200 hours provided, whether it was an ABC staff person, Brian Garcia, Penelope Bouchard, and Title I's financial folks that go out and do outreach to those schools to work on their finances. And then we also had direct school-based fiscal support. In addition to those smaller meetings, there were meetings that were held and support was provided directly around the NMPED grant program, the fiscal planning through budget meetings, systems navigation and trying to figure out like how to hire people, all of the things that it takes to navigate through large systems. Those are primarily provided through Brian Garcia and the Title I team. And that was over 160 hours support. So since September, there have been 455 direct hours in formal settings. That doesn't include, the trade, really like connecting when people reach out for technical assistance or the teams working together and planning. And that on-site, there's about 36 dedicated hours that have happened where the teams meet together to really do the planning for all of this work. So it's a pretty heavy lift. Again, we were talking about five-ish people, 4 people doing the planning to make all of this happen for 56 community schools within the district, and then an additional 10 charter schools that also participate in some of those. Most of those are APS charter schools. Any questions on that? These are just some data. Alex does an amazing job at gathering all of this information and data so we can try to mush it together to see where we're doing well, where schools are doing well, what supports we still need to provide. And this is just a quick snapshot of the cohorts and the attendance by school. So we also we expect the schools to track a lot of data. ABC also tracks a lot of data around how much are we offering, how much are people engaging, how much, what kind of feedback are we getting? We have one-on-one meetings with every single school that participates in a cohort mid-year and at the end of the year to see how it's working for them. Is it meeting their needs? Basically, we're looking at how much are we doing? How well are we delivering what we're doing? And is anybody better off from it? Those are just quick snapshots. This is the huddle attendance. You can see that list of community schools has grown just a little bit. Can you read? And those folks that are consistently attending each month for that 3-hour professional development session.
Danette,
Yes.
so I see some very low ones. Talk about outreach and engagement with people who are not yet engaged.
So we work really closely with Brian, and he works with the principals to try to engage people and figure out why they are not attending those opportunities.
They're mostly charter schools.
And those are the ones that are here are mostly charter schools, and they kind of do their own thing. But we also have a network of charter schools that we support with some of our, we've do some contracts outside of Bernalillo County, and we utilize that money to support schools that are not necessarily directly in the ABC network, so that we're not using the funds from ABC to do that. And so we contract with Sean Morris, who's the principal at the high school at RFK, and he leads a charter school network, and they work with the principals and the coordinators together, along with Jake supporting that. So they may not come. Some that are a little bit lower sometimes have conflicts on Friday mornings so that it's the third Friday of every month. But sometimes that's the day that their food pantry was when the community most could access it. And so they don't come. They do have opportunities through the cohorts always. Jake and Deanna both also support the schools who have been implementing for quite a long time, which are not necessarily, we call them cohort 5. They're not necessarily, it's more technical assistance and they can gather in that.
And we've had coordinator shifts.
And we've had coordinator shifts. Yeah, we have like 5 vacancies right now within the district. So that's also some of it. The other thing we have done is engage the coordinators in kind of an advisory group. So we now have a group of coordinators that are also giving input to what happens in the huddles, as well as that same group are also giving some input on some new tools that we've developed. Some additional community school development, and we see this as more like systems development, is the recent and still in progress development of a community school transformation guide, which we'll share probably in April after it gets tested a little bit more. We just took it to the coordinators and the coordinators took it to their principals and they gave some feedback on the tool itself, the guide itself. And we want to have it closer to ready. But there's a pilot group now working weekly with Deanna and Chloe and Jake to really refine this tool, which will hopefully be a one-stop shop for how we got to transformation that will link APS goals or school goals, depending on what school it is, to all of the things that are happening within that school based on the council's focus. So that there's a link between those two that's very clear. Some of the teacher pipeline and national partnership development that we've done recently, Deanna was a guest lecturer for a class at the College of Education around community schools, community school development. They were all pre-teacher folks, also presenting and continuing to partner with the teacher residency program. We attended the AFT Center for School Improvement Institute with our ATF partners. And while we didn't present there, we were sitting in meetings and there was a lot of talk about Albuquerque. So we felt like that we didn't plan. So and when we started talking, people also wanted to learn from Barbara and Jerry and Sonia, also all union folks that went and were really working and talking about how do we really start to engage teachers in a more deep way with this process. And in particular, because there is a new key practice that just rolled out around community connected learning, classroom learning. And we want to make sure that that is the part, that is the one place where we really, really have teachers informing and engaging. And hopefully from there, we can grow to the rest of the key practices. Because the educators are the stable force in the school for the most part, right? What we do know is that if a principal leaves, there is no principal left, right? That has to be replaced. If 50% of the teachers leave, there's still 50% of the teachers left. And we want to make sure that we're connecting, and they're the education experts. So when we talk about transformation of outcomes, they're the ones that on the academic side are going to be the most likely to help us get there. I also, the Harvard Ed Redesign Lab that we are participating in with the success planning. I'm going to let Sasha give a little input on that because they've been asked, the Albuquerque team has been asked to present twice now because of the work that's happening. Go ahead, Sasha.
Yeah, so we we were asked by the Harvard Ed Redesign Lab team to present to the staff first, and then we were able to present to the community, so all over the United States, who were selected just like Albuquerque, and our focus was really on cross collaboration. So they were interested in how we got our team together and how we've been able to move our success planning model at Highland High School so quickly. So it was really neat. We had some cool input. The professor there asked lots of great questions to help us really think about expanding the program and thinking through how we can move forward in the future. So yeah, great opportunities. Our work was definitely highlighted and really at a higher level. Like, how are you able to establish such great cross collaboration using ABC Community School Board, or community schools? So yeah,
Thank you. It was really exciting. They were floored that it wasn't just one organization making it happen. And then we even had organizations willing to work together, but that it's moving more quickly than others initiatives. So that's to Deanna and Sasha's credit. We also presented with the Future Focus team at the Ed Rising conference around how community schools could benefit the capstone experience and how that might look in a community school, and the additional supports and alignment and connections that a community school has ready made for a capstone experience. And there was a lot of people there, like 100 people there and working in teams. And we walked them through how a council might help to address the needs of a capstone opportunity for students, but also broadly for the school, how partners could come to the table, how mentoring could happen, and how that council could, because they're cross-sector and already sitting at the table, can really make it so much easier and not such a heavy lift on teachers. National Family Engagement and Community School Conference presentations. They have moved to an annual conference, which is no pressure on all of us to try to get there every year. But this year they were really selective because there's so many people with a combination of family engagement and community schools now that apply to present. And we were able to secure multiple presentations from ABC and APS teams. So there are certain ones that ABC is taking the lead on, the other APS is taking the lead on, but everyone's presenting in various iterations of it as a team. So we have Deanna was invited to be on a pre-conference session with the Learning Policy Institute around the implementation of the community schools forward key practices, which is the new iteration of the research, because we have moved so quickly on it and have created tools around it, have done quite a bit of work, even statewide, with that the minute it came out. Then we have another pre-conference session that we are going to be working, Deanna, myself, and Sean Morris, with the Institute for Educational Leadership on the principal micro-credential development and rollout to support community school leaders across the state as a part of the congressionally directed spending award that we received with two of the statewide partners. And then Deanna and Chloe were accepted for two different sessions on the care and feeding of community school coordinators, which is about how we develop and support through the cohorts and the practices that we implement. And then laying the foundation for collaboration is Brian Garcia, and then Jake and Chloe are supporting that around how we do the onboarding process and the principal support section. So we had a really large, I mean, that's a lot of people coming from just Albuquerque and particularly connected to the ABC partnership to be selected. And there's, I think in the past, they have told us we need to stop applying for so many sessions.
Well,
because
they limited us to 2.
Yeah, they did make it, they only do 2 in general, but in the past, they're like, stop, we're not.
But it's a big deal that LPI is, so Learning Policy Institute is where I go when I need research that is well done around issues and practices in public education. And that's Linda Darling Hammond and a bunch of really amazing researchers. And the fact that they wanted us to work with them and they highlight us, that's a big deal. I was thrilled.
It's exciting. It's really exciting. We've been doing a lot of work with both those groups at a broader level of how do we make this sustainable for our state, right? And so we've had the opportunity for them to learn what we're doing, which has been exciting. And then just the New Mexico Coalition for Community Schools is really the partner with PED to look at all of the grant programs, the funding advocacy, the policy work around community schools. So I just wanted to share that there are a number of us locally that are on the coalition or supporting coalition committees. Currently, I'm co-chairing with Mary Parr Sanchez, who's the New Mexico president for NEA New Mexico. Brian is also a member of the coalition now, and he is chairing the capacity building committee, which is really the training around coordinators. And then the ABC team also participates in the individual committees. Deanna is working with policy. Chloe is working with capacity building. Alex is supporting the impact and outcomes committee. And the reason that's important is because once those practices, policies, statutes, whatever it is passes, that becomes what the state's going to judge community schools on. And so we feel it's really important that our voice is in every space to make sure that we stay in alignment, or that we challenge and push the systems to align in a way that is honestly will benefit the work that we're doing here, because we do believe that we stay grounded in the research and the practice, best practices of community school implementation.
Sorry, another question. The New Mexico Coalition, were you the instigators of the task force to study the funding?
Yes.
Yes.
I like that word, instigator.
I'm going to talk a little bit about that during the CDS part, and why that transpired. All right. So resource alignment and development, very quickly, we talk about this quite a bit. There's a typo. Sorry about that. Really just looking like working together to support a braided funding approach. That's sort of more accurate. But it feels like some days. Working with the Title I team and Brian to really help schools, principals understand the braiding of funding and how to fund their coordinator, how to fund the things they want to do internally, to do interventions around some of the root causes. Also the NMPED grant program. We have participated in every opportunity to give input to the application process. We also are providing direct support to 26 schools that are applying. And one of the big pieces about that is that PED moved up the timeline by about 4 weeks, and the application dropped Monday. Monday, it's due on the 30th or 31st, and APS has spring break in the middle of that. So it's been we've really been scrambling to try to figure out how to support all of these schools in getting these applications completed in a way that they will be funded. So it's a pretty heavy lift, and we're working with Brian and Title I, and we're meeting this Friday to really like map everything out and make sure we're helping the schools as we can with the funding. And then the full service community school grant that will benefit 3 schools in a direct feeder pattern. We've met with the schools all together. Now we're starting the meetings individually to really dig into what the proposal said and what their budgets say and what our next steps are, and simultaneously meeting with the evaluation team, which is required by the grant to have an internal local evaluator in addition to us participating in the national evaluation process. All right. Systems transformation. We do a lot of this at a lot of levels, but I chose to focus on the CDS project in particular. This is the $1.8 million award from Senator Heinrich that we went after in partnership with Communities and Schools of New Mexico and NEA New Mexico. With, of course, because Ellen is on our board, AFT, maybe not always so much at the statewide level, but our local influence around the union work here is always included with ABC. We've contracted with Angelo Gonzalez to lead this project moving forward and to its end or not end ever. Maybe he'll just stay. Part of that work, our team decided that due to stability issues with the plan that we had to really implement this work long-term, that we would start a nonprofit. We have recently gotten all the paperwork in and our affirmation for the Southwest Institute for Transformational Community Schools. It'll be called SWIFT Community Schools. That center will have a couple roles in the community school realm. It'll be around technical assistance and support statewide, primarily focused on more rural communities or communities that have similar issues to rural communities, since ABC, CIS, and NEA are also working in the large cities. But we will work in partnership with them.
And we were just able to meet with Senator Heinrich.
Yes.
That's
She was saying we just met with Senator Heinrich on all of this, and they're extremely excited about the work that has transpired so far. It started last April, and we got the money in October. We got approval in April. We had access to the money in October. We had a temporary contractor that got us kind of moving, and then in January, when Angelo left PED, we talked with him about picking up this work. And as you all know, he's brilliant and so good at these things. The other piece of the work, so the first is the Southwest, and really we're looking at policy, practice, people, and progress. And we really want to make sure there's a policy arm connected to the Institute as well, so that when, sometimes it's hard to do policy work when you're really embedded in things in your own community. So we wanted an organization that would be a little more objective and not kind of, have their own agenda and per se that they really were responsible to, but we could do it collectively and have someone kind of hold the objective container for us. So that's part of that work. A big part of the work is a sustainable funding stream tied to high quality implementation that leads to actual transformation of outcomes. We are looking at that as a certification process in the state. Part of that is where that task force request came from, is to look at the funding streams, look at what it would take. How could we fund communities, at least community school coordinators long-term? We would use the grant program for a planning year and 3 years of implementation, with potentially that 5th year being the planning year, 3 years of implementation, the 4th year of implementation be the certification year. That is all in statute right now. And it would be available to any school, regardless of whether or not they had a grant program. If you had money to do the implementation yourself, you would have this opportunity, 3 years of implementation, and then you could apply for certification, which would lead to some sort of funding stream that would pay for at least the coordinator. We are consistently hearing that, well, number one, everybody's going to hit a cliff in 2025, right? Because every single district that had additional funds isn't going to have those. The smaller districts also really struggle because they don't have partners, so they're having to pay everybody and they're having to figure it out, plus their coordinator, plus they don't have teachers. So we're trying to listen to the field and move things forward in a sustainable fashion. But the most important piece is we know that if we implement the strategy, as research tells us it's effective, we will change outcomes for our communities, with our communities leading the way. And we need a way to make that happen, because when we get this big, people automatically move backwards to what was comfortable and familiar before, and the system protects itself. We are trying to change that system.
Danette, I have a question. So, start taking myself back to my DOH days, but I'm wondering, as you all are moving, especially on the SWIFT side with this statewide perspective, you really ought to consider bringing DOH to the table, because the work that you all are doing also has this really primary prevention approach and strategy to it. And I'm wondering if Administration on Children and Families could be a funding source for that. DOH is the recipient of those funds, but we also probably need to have the conversation with HSD on the Medicaid matching side, because there is some potential there as well. But I think DOH, especially on that big, on the statewide piece, would be perfect, because everything that you all are talking about has a lot to do with public health and primary prevention, which is where they want to be, and changing community outcomes. Is what you're talking about. So that could really be a nice space. And maybe as you're talking with Heinrich's office too, is also sort of putting that bug in around the Administration on Children and Families, because I think that could also become a new place for them to also have a placeholder and maybe some movement around community schools out of that administration.
That would be fantastic. Can we follow up with you on that and setting that? And I know, we've made some good strides at the federal level with Department of Education and helping to bring other funding streams to the table. So it wouldn't be super foreign. And I think the idea of bringing in Heinrich to that conversation, it would be a great next place for Heinrich. They keep telling us, ask us for more money, and we love what you're doing. So let's.
But, even at a national level, they're trying to figure out how to really impact community change and community outcomes. And the whole conversation around where children are right now and some of the struggles that are going on. I mean, a lot of it is about healthcare and a lot, but it's tied to primary prevention.
Right.
And that, it just seems like it's a natural fit for the administration on children and families. And I wonder where they are in thinking about, you know, do they even know to think about community schools as an avenue
It's a
for
great
some of this
idea.
work?
That's exciting. That's a great idea. Yay. Any other questions about this project? Or the certification, potential certification process. We really think we're looking to
I think
at least have it.
certification is-
It's so exciting.
Oh, this is only tangentially appropriate, but as Yolanda was speaking, it made me think that doing that would sort of force us to address some of the other regulatory barriers that our schools experience. Because of all of just some of it's bureaucracy, some of it is legitimate student protection. But there ends up being not a smooth connection between what community schools coordinators and that entity tries to work with children as they work between the school counseling, social work, and the providers that are external. And I hear a lot from school folks and community school coordinators how difficult it is sometimes to reach out because of those barriers, even within the school health clinics and the school side. So doing that would be sort of the kick to say we have to address those issues and to make it more streamlined for services.
We're also hoping that there'll be like some district level pieces to it. There's already a part in the statute that says that if there's more than 3 community schools, the district has to have a district support person that will help their schools with all of the understanding of the systems. Because like you said, there are very legitimate reasons for certain things. Sometimes it's just practice. Sometimes something happened, like some school districts have had things happen. So they have their own internal policies that are like, no way, no how. But one of the things we're hoping to look at with SWIFT as well is how do we help lay sort of a guide for things like with ABC, for example. We know that the county and the city are funding APS and funding nonprofits and other groups that are working in community schools. Are there ways for us to work together as systems to make it easier, more intentional investment in what community schools are saying they need, or because they're reflective of the neighborhood. What does that neighborhood need? Are we funding that need? Who provides it? And can we figure out how to help them get funded? And then how can we remove some of the barriers in the process to allow them to provide that service either on a school or in that neighborhood through the application processes we have, or something along those lines, so that we know if it's gone through this piece, we can remove some of these, the not critical pieces, and then each individual district or school that may have their own rules around things for whatever reason, then it's just those things that have to get done. And at the state level, really looking at how do we make it easier when you have to like go back and forth from PED to the district 22 times before you can spend a dime. We need to look at those things because we're also leaving money on the table that communities need and want and have planned for.
And so I don't know, maybe Scott can speak a little bit to this, since we're going to be moving to student need-based budgeting. Would that have any kind of positive effect on what you have just been talking about? I mean, because she's talking about needs, the needs of the school, the needs of the community. I don't know.
I don't know about that line. I'm actually going to stand up and leave in a couple of minutes because I'm meeting with those people. Ask that question. I don't know. I think what she's talking about really are more issues in terms of the bureaucracies that exist. Like I said, we have to go back to PED creates some pretty tricky things you have to dance through, and sometimes we do in procurement for some obvious reasons, and some of them legitimately, but sometimes we do wonder, are we going too far? You know, and obviously the school-based people are going to say, no, you've got too far, we've got to get that money, but then there's all the legal people saying you haven't gone far enough, and you know, procurement people are worried. So but I don't think it will hurt it. I don't know if it would address that correctly. We'll see. It's an interesting question. That's exactly where I'm going next, so.
I mean, I do think if we align appropriately to what the academic focus is of that school, or it could be district, right? Sometimes it's district wide. If we really are moving towards that alignment through the appropriate root cause analysis work, so that we know we're focused on attendance, 6 degrees of separation, attendance is due to X. Then each funding stream hits where it's appropriate to move that result forward. And I think if we can have that, I think it can't hurt it, right? When you're looking at that, and each one, when it becomes less siloed, but but it's clear where each role, each contribution goes, I think we will find that we can fund things the way we need to. And they will be impactful because they're intentional. And then it's not so much on one individual group or district or, bureaucracy, if you will, to try to cover all the needs at once. All right, so very quickly, community self-determination. At the ABC level, what we're really looking at is the various communities that we support. So a lot of convening, the CDS project, we just had a community conversation with local practitioners to inform the certification process. There'll be a second one for Albuquerque, probably 2 in Santa Fe as well, just due to the size that will be more student and community focused. The practitioner included council members, so there were community partners there, but they have an active role within the community school strategy at their school. The next one will be focused more on how we engage, how people are experiencing community schools that live in those communities or attend those schools. We haven't set that date yet, I don't think. Also, just things I've talked about, the transformational guide pilot, engaging coordinator voice in the work that we do, engaging principal feedback. Brian does surveys with the principals, Robert meets them with the teachers to make sure that we're getting input or giving opportunity for input in the work that we do, so that they are leading, they're at the leading side of the online side when we're planning. Just for out of 40 of the 56 schools reporting, that's what the council makeup is now. And these are people that come 50% or more of the time, which I think is pretty fantastic. Years ago, you would have not seen the diversity there. And our goal is to make sure that the council is diverse, not only in sector, but also reflective of that school community. And this chart gives you kind of some idea around a pretty balanced, for most councils, it's pretty balanced. The big green is school staff, which you would expect because they have multiple roles in the school that also sit on the council. All right. Oops, I skipped our bright spot, sorry.
Your theme is really great.
So we just wanted to share with the board and give gratitude to the board. Our last meeting, we had asked permission from the board to really try to support the Marshall Brennan project at UNM. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay.
Justice Sasha was like, oh, those are them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, those are last year's
Those are
students.
last
They
year's
haven't gone
students.
yet.
Oh,
But
They'll look
we
like
were able to, we had in doing some funding grading and partly because of the APS ESSER investment in the top schools, we had some funding from the Keeler Foundation that was going to a coordinator that due to our, moving things around was freed up. Deanna went to Keeler. They were easily convinced to let us use those funds to support the Marshall Brennan project. And then also Commissioner Piscotti took her, some of her district directed dollars and funded it as well. So they are funded 100%. All 10 students get to go. They have clothes, they have tickets, they have rooms, they have money for food, as well as the staff that have been supporting these kids at each of the schools. So thank you very much. They are extremely excited and grateful. So that they get to do what they wanted to do. And the people who already dedicate their time to doing this are not out pounding the pavement to raise money, penny by penny to try to make this happen. They get to focus on their kids and getting them ready for the competition. And there's 10 students, Deanna, they're going?
10 high school students.
10 high school students will be competing.
What schools are they from? Do you know?
So
Highland High School, I believe West Mesa. I think Valley is one of them. And then there's a charter school. I should have come better prepared. I believe that 4 of them were community schools. So,
There's 5 schools and 4 were community schools.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we looked at it. Before we brought them to you guys, you made sure they were actually in community
Yeah.
schools, but
And Highland actually submitted like twice the number of students that were normally allowed, but because they were so excited and had been doing it for so long and the Highland students were so passionate about it, they allowed double the number of Highland students to participate than they normally would have. So
Where will the competition be?
it's in Washington, DC
Okay.
at American University School of Law.
Way cool.
very cool. So we'll make sure they have pictures and we'll bring that, we'll circle back with that. We are running a little over time, so we're just gonna push some minutes, it's not a big deal, we can, they're from December, so I'm sure they can wait. But if there's any specific announcements, I know the county, the city are doing lots of job fairs for summer programs, youth job fairs happening. We try to send those out as we get them. The other announcements that might be critical.
State basketball going on.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
A lot of fun and not just same. Basically, and we had been the same overtime, we were down by 6 with like a minute left, we came out, not in overtime.
So much fun.
overtime. We played on the last second shot, we won't talk about that.
Out of town too, that beat someone, was it the girls' side or the boys' side?
It was out of town. There's a lot of.
Yeah.
Out of-
There's a lot.
But Scott's right, I read the paper this morning and there was like 6 nail biter games.
Yeah.
So I squeeze in like half an hour, and I just get out there and watch for a few minutes, but it's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
Thank you all so much for coming down to the building. If you didn't get a burrito, please take one with you. Make sure you take your cookie because ABC, even though we pretend like we don't believe it, because we can't. We don't.